Hello, everybody. Welcome back to 3 News Now. I'm Stephanie Haney. It's Monday, October 19th, and we are back with your top headlines from WKYC.com and your WKYC app. Thank you so much for choosing to be here to get filled in on what's impacting you here in Northeast Ohio. I am back after a very refreshing week away. I want to say a quick thank you to Dave Dino DiNatale and Ben Axelrod for filling in while I was out. Very happy to be back here with you. I have to say, everyone, if you are not taking advantage of the Cleveland Metro Parks here in Northeast Ohio, you are truly missing out. That was something that was very important for me to do during my time away because of all the time spending indoors. Beautiful trails. I can't recommend enough the Blue Hen Falls Trail at the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Also, the South Chagrin Reservation. Beautiful trails there. There's a little waterfall. Highly recommend it. Now, here we are. It's Monday, October 19th, and no, it's not a Victory Monday. That's what we were hoping for after the Browns took on the Steelers yesterday in Pittsburgh. However, that was not the reality. But I have to say, we did still wake up, even though we didn't wake up to a Victory Monday, you all. We still woke up to a 4-2 Cleveland Browns team. So I'm still wearing the orange today to support the Cleveland Browns because my memory is not that short, and I remember not that long ago when a 4-2 start to a season seemed pretty impossible. But there were a lot of people with a lot of comments about that loss to the Steelers yesterday. I ended up losing 38-7 at Heinz Field. By the way, the 17th consecutive loss at Heinz Field between the Browns and the Steelers. Now, this is coming off of several wins. We had a winning streak going, but that opening game in Baltimore against the Ravens, another big loss. So 2 big losses in the AFC North. Lots of people have a lot to say about that on social media. Paul Pop Jr., for one, said that the Browns are not a good team because they can't compete with the top division foes. But the season is early, he says. We do need to see how the Browns respond when we play the Steelers and the Ravens at home. Something to think about there. Now, the Browns are an early favorite next week, again on the road against Cincinnati. Cincinnati, remind you, has 1 win, 3 losses, and 1 tie. We did already beat the Bengals once. Well, Chris Noble says maybe they shouldn't commit to Browns quarterback Baker Mayfield as a starter until we know if he's actually okay. If you remember, Baker Mayfield did get a little bit banged up in the previous game against the Indianapolis Colts, started against the Steelers when people were wondering if he was necessarily ready. Well, head coach Kevin Stefanski did make the decision to pull Baker in the second half, put in the backup quarterback, Case Keenum. Wasn't enough, though, to change the results of the game. The Browns did still lose 38-7, but as of right now, Mayfield is expected to start against Cincinnati, and then after that, the Browns will be going into the bye week. Judith Simpson said that it was not a great decision to bench Baker and noted that the Steelers have an excellent defense and the results wouldn't have been any better with the substitute, which we did see the results were the same. There was no more scoring after putting in the sub, and the Browns did end up losing 38-7. Yes, the Browns did have a lot of injuries and they were against a very healthy Steelers team. Now, our 3 News sports analyst Ben Axelrod put a story up on Baker Mayfield's reaction to the blowout loss to the Steelers and also the blowout loss to the Ravens. First week of the season, the Browns lost to the Ravens 38-6. So a little bit of deja vu there, losing 38-7 to the Steelers on Sunday. Well, here's what Baker Mayfield said about those big scoring differences. He said, "It's not discouraging, no matter the score. It only counts for 1 loss," he was saying. "The good thing is we play both those teams again and we can learn and get better." So the next time the Browns face the Steelers, it'll be on January 3rd at home. The next time the Browns face the Ravens, it'll be on December 14th at home. And between now and then, sports analysts say the schedule seems a little bit easier. Now, here's what head coach Kevin Stefanski had to say. He says, with any loss, you can't let it linger. You learn from it and you move on. Stefanski says they'll watch the tape today. They'll have everybody in. They'll watch it. They'll learn from it. And they'll move on. That's the simple answer, that you just can't dwell on these things, and the next one is coming. And Baker Mayfield basically said the same thing. He says you don't want to let it landslide. You do not want to let 1 turn into 2, talking about losses again there. We have to learn from these mistakes, Baker says, learn from this and move forward. We have another division opponent on the road next week, so we need to watch this film, learn and grow from it, and move forward. So the Browns will take on the Bengals in Cincinnati on Sunday at 1 p.m. in another AFC North face-off. So that's in southern Ohio. Here in northeast Ohio, former Vice President Joe Biden and Democratic candidate for President Joe Biden is campaigning now here in Ohio today and tomorrow. He has the Soul of the Nation bus tour that kicked off this morning with several stops today and tomorrow throughout northeast Ohio. It kicked off today in Columbus at 10:30 this morning. So the campaign says that there will be bus stops and drive-through events as part of the Soul of the Nation bus tour with just 15 days before the upcoming presidential election. So the campaign says people are invited to snap a selfie with the bus, and you'll be able to pick up free Biden-Harris campaign gear at these events. And everyone who does attend is going to be required to keep social distance and wear face coverings at every single event. So that started this morning at 10:30 in Columbus. The next stop is at 1:30 p.m. in Canton. That will be at the Golden Lodge in Canton on Harrison Avenue. And then in Youngstown tonight at 5:30 at the Academy of Urban Scholars parking lot. We have those addresses up on WKYC.com and in our WKYC app if you're interested in attending one of those events. Tomorrow, the stops for the Soul of the Nation bus tour will be in Steubenville at 10 a.m. at the IBEW Hall, and then in St. Clairsville at the Ohio Valley Mall at 1:30 p.m., and then in Marietta at 5 p.m. Again, we've got those addresses on WKYC.com. Now, it was just a few weeks ago that the Women for Trump bus tour came through Northeast Ohio with stops in Akron, Canton, and Boardman. Now, with both campaigns making multiple stops here in Ohio, as well as Pennsylvania, where Joe Biden was born, and Florida, where the president calls his home state, in these last couple weeks leading up to the election, they are really working full force in some surprising states to try and get as many voters out for their side as possible. So over the weekend, President Donald Trump visited both Nevada and California, which have both been solidly blue states in past elections. And Joe Biden visited North Carolina on Sunday. Now, the last time a Democrat won the presidential race in North Carolina was former President Barack Obama back in 2008. So really, both candidates pulling out all the stops, literally stopping in unexpected places as we move toward Election Day, which is, again, just 15 days away. And this week, we are expected to have that final presidential debate coming up on the 22nd. Now, as we move towards the election, something that's at the top of everyone's minds is COVID-19 and the recent surges that we're seeing not only here in the U.S., but around the world. As of early this morning, COVID-19 cases have passed 40 million globally. That's according to Johns Hopkins University. So that total number of global cases now is at 40,122,835. And the total number of deaths, well over 1 million. It's now at 1,114,857. Now, to remind you how that compares to how we're doing here in the U.S., we've got about 4% of the global population, but we've got 20% of the global cases and 20% of the global deaths here in the U.S. In the U.S., we have reported now 8,157,704 COVID-19 cases and 219,706 COVID-19 deaths here in the U.S. So the U.S., Brazil, and India are by far reporting the highest numbers of cases of COVID-19. But in recent weeks, this surge that has now pushed the global number of cases over 40 million is driven by a surge in Europe. The World Health Organization said that there are new measures being taken across Europe and that they are absolutely essential to stop COVID-19 from overwhelming hospitals in those European areas. So some of those precautions include new requirements on mask wearing in both Italy and Switzerland, closing restaurants and bars in Northern Ireland and Belgium, and a curfew in France with targeted lockdowns in parts of the UK. The WHO also said that several European cities could soon be seeing their ICUs overwhelmed, which is something that we do not want to see heading into cold and flu season, as something that we're thinking about here in the U.S., according to those medical health professionals. So the World Health Organization is warning that governments and citizens need to be taking measures to slow the virus's spread. That includes updates on testing, more testing, contact tracing, wearing those face masks, and following those distancing protocols. Now, here in Ohio, over the past week, day after day, we saw new records in new number of daily reported cases for COVID-19, several days with new reported cases over 2,000. and high numbers over the weekend as well. So we'll be watching that very closely to see what those numbers look like here in Ohio through the coming weeks. But we've seen rises in cases and rises in hospitalizations, and medical experts are concerned because when you see those rises in hospitalizations, what tends to be around the corner are rises in deaths. So again, we'll be watching that very closely here in Ohio as everyone is being reminded by those medical health professionals to keep that physical distance, wear those masks, practice good hand hygiene, do the washing of the hands and all of those things in order to stop the spread of COVID-19, especially as we move into cold and flu season. Now, something that many people have been clicking on, and this is coming up here very soon, so this is very top of mind, is what happens if your driver's license, your ID, or your vehicle registration has expired since the pandemic first hit us here in Ohio, which we first became aware of on March 9th. Well, there was an order passed that said that there would be an extension of that, and it would either extend 90 days past the end of the state of emergency here in Ohio or December 1st, whichever came earlier. So we are still in the state of emergency here in Ohio. So now that official deadline to get those things up to date is December 1st. So you have until December 1st in order to correct any expired identification or vehicle registration here in Ohio. So the Ohio BMV is now saying in order to prevent long lines leading up to December 1st, to consider getting those things taken care of sooner rather than later now. You can renew your vehicle registration online, and you can renew your license or ID in person. So the BMV is recommending that you check out the checklists for what kind of documents are required if you need to go in person to renew your identification, and also to get in line online before you go so that you're limiting the amount of time you actually have to physically be at the BMV. So there's a link to that on WKYC.com. Remember, we are still in the state of emergency at this time, so that means the deadline to get those things renewed is December 1st. So again, the BMV asking people to take care of that sooner rather than later so that you can avoid those long lines and spend as little time at the BMV as possible, which is something that we all like to do, even under the best of circumstances, I think, is spend as little of time at the BMV as possible. One more thing for you before we go. The Cleveland Zoo's Wild Winter Lights will be back for the 2020 holiday season. That is coming back on Tuesday, November 17th. So pretty quickly here, just under a month away, there will be hundreds of light displays. There'll be a Candyland display, an enchanted forest, a conservation trail, and Santa's workshop. Now, you'll be able to enjoy this to either walk through it or drive through it. Some of the other things that will be there will be costume characters, model train displays, ice carvers, live music, and choirs. And there will be opportunities to take photos with Santa Claus there. Of course, all proper precautions will be taken related to COVID-19 safety. And you are required to wear a facial covering the entire time you are at the event if you're doing the walkthrough version. If you're in your car, if you're with your immediate family, of course, that's a different scenario. But there are prices for a carload of people. Children 2 and younger are free, and you are being encouraged to get your tickets in advance because there will be limits on the number of people who are able to attend the event, of course, because of all of the COVID-19 protocols. So you can check out the details on that on WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Thanks for being here for your early update for 3 News Now on Monday, October 19th. I'll be back here at 3 p.m. when we get those new numbers in from the Ohio Department of Health related to COVID-19 and the rest of the stories that are topping WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Thanks for being here with me. I appreciate you. It's great to be back, and I'll see you back here in a little bit. I'm Stephanie Haney.